Jacob Kehinde, the people's warden, the visionary merchant farmer who transformed the economic landscape of the hinterland of the colony of Lagos. Jacob Kehinde was born into the vibrant, complex world of the Saro, liberated Africans rescued from slave ships by the West Africa Squadron of the British Royal Navy, resettled in Sierra Leone, and who later returned to their ancestral homelands in what is now Nigeria. Yet, his family stood apart from the typical Lagos Saro elite. His parents, James Osholu Coker, popularly known as Ajobo, and Dotumu, were only lightly shaped by the Anglicized missionary culture of Freetown. Upon their return to Yoruba land, they deliberately rejected the colonial ease of Lagos, settling instead in Abeokuta, a fiercely independent Egba stronghold carved out of rock, war, and self-rule. This choice profoundly influenced Jacob's intellectual formation. Raised at the crossroads of two civilizations, he learned to navigate the communal, land-based traditions of Egba society while mastering the emerging commercial logic of colonial Lagos. This dual inheritance later enabled him to act as a bridge between port-based mercantile capital and the vast underutilized agricultural hinterland. Jacob Coker began his working life in the authorless fashion of an educated African of his generation, entering clerical service in Lagos in 1885. By 1892, armed with literacy, numeracy, and commercial confidence, he struck out as an independent merchant, importing European manufactured goods and trading in indigenous produce. During these formative years, Coker came under the influence of one of Lagos's most formidable indigenous capitalists, J.P.L. Davis. Davis, a pioneer African investor in plantation agriculture, introduced Coker to the discipline and long-term vision required for cocoa cultivation. Under Davis's informal mentorship, Coker learned not merely how to plant cocoa, but how to think in decades rather than seasons, calculating yields, managing labor, reinvesting profits, and surviving commodity cycles. In 1893, still primarily a merchant, Coker purchased a tract of land in Agege, then an ungoverned frontier or zone of the sprawling Awori country. Initially, he treated this land as a speculative side venture, entrusting its management to a fellow Egba man, Moses Shomefun, while he focused on Lagos commerce. However, a cascade of personal tragedies forced a decisive reorientation. In 1904, his father died. Soon after, Uncle Harry, the family head, and his elder brother Joseph also passed away. Jacob suddenly became the patriarch, responsible for an extended family and scattered properties. He handed his Lagos trading business to his brother John, a decision that proved disastrous. John's mismanagement ruined the firm and plunged the family into debt that took Jacob 6 painful years to repay. This experience cured him of any faith in volatile mercantile speculation, drawing on the lessons absorbed from J.P.L. Davis. Coker turned decisively to agriculture. From 1904 onward, the soil, not the counting house, became the foundation of his economic philosophy. Coker's agricultural turn coincided with Agege's emergence as a zone of immense potential. Its inland soil was fertile and less saline than Lagos's coastal belt. The Ju River aided moisture retention, and critically, the railway extension to Agege in 1897 cut travel time to the port to just 35 minutes. Cocoa, newly ascendant over palm produce, became Coker's strategic focus, applying the plantation logic learned from Davis. He planted at scale and with discipline. By 1907, he had established 30,000 cocoa trees. To fuel expansion, he leveraged his remaining Lagos properties to raise capital from elite financiers such as Isaac Williams and Candido da Rocha, extending his holdings toward Alagbado and Ifo. His success and that of his peers transformed land value in Agege, territory that was virtually worthless in Ifako in 1893 was selling for £100 per 50 acres by 1911. By the 1910s, Jacob Kehinde Coker stood as the preeminent cocoa magnate of the Agege belt. Coker was not merely a planter, he was an institution builder. In 1907, he co-founded what was arguably Nigeria's first formal cooperative society, the Agege Planters Union, APU, serving as its secretary, strategist, and financial anchor. The APU functioned as a cooperative pooling knowledge, resources, and political voice. By 1909, it had grown to over 300 members across ethnic lines, including Hausa settlers. It offered welfare support, buried its dead, defended members against exploitative colonial government policies, and insisted on premium quality cocoa production. Its achievements were remarkable. The union successfully lobbied for the Ebute Agege Road, now famously known as the Agege Motor Road. In 1912, formed Nigeria's first farmer-owned motor transport company in 1916 and consistently won government agricultural prizes, even when their imported lorry proved unequal to the rough colonial roads. Coker's worldview was underpinned by moral conviction. Unlike many contemporaries, he rejected slave labor outright, mirroring the ethics of his mentor, J.P.L. Davis. He insisted on paid wage labor even when it raised costs. He enforced ethical codes within the APU, discouraging labor poaching and exploitation. He also rejected Africa's relegation to raw material dependency. In 1910, he founded the Agege Industrial Institute, modeled intellectually on the Tuskegee Norman and Industrial Institute in Alabama, USA. The APU maintained correspondence with Tuskegee to acquire modern agricultural methods and mechanical skills vital for maintaining their transport lorries, and hosted demonstrations of indigenous technology, including a locally invented palm oil extraction machine by a local teacher. His vision extended beyond profit to African industrial competence. Many alumni of the institute eventually took cocoa and cash crop farming deep into the Yoruba hinterland. Coca's influence extended deeply into religious and political life. A committed African nationalist in faith as well as economics, he was a founding figure of the African Church, a historic breakaway from Anglican control that asserted African priestly leadership, liturgy, and self-governance. Alongside men such as David Brown Vincent, Omojola Agbebi, J.O. Lucas, and E.M. Lijadu, Coca helped establish a church rooted in African dignity rather than missionary paternalism. From his days in the Anglican Church, St. Paul's Breadfruit, he earned the enduring title, the People's Warden, a reflection of both his administrative rigor and his first defense of congregational interests. By 1918, his wealth, 2,000 acres of land and ownership of one of the few African-owned automobiles, made him a decisive political actor. When Alakegbedebo I died in 1920, Coca and his allies successfully backed Ladapo Ademola, who ascended the throne as Ademola II and ruled until 1962. The post-World War I economy proved unforgiving. After a brief speculative bloom, cocoa prices collapsed in the mid-1920s, falling from £90 to £95 per ton to as low as £30. The crash devastated planter merchants. By 1933, Coca's annual profit had fallen to £275, approximately 45 million naira in modern purchasing power. His unwavering financial support for the African Church and Egba political causes further strained his resources. As cocoa production shifted to the fresher soils of Ibadan and Ondo, Agege's plantations suffered from soil exhaustion and gave way to kola nuts. When Jacob Kehinde Coca died in 1945, he was nearly £2,000 in debt. Yet his true legacy lies elsewhere. He helped open the hinterland, normalize freehold land sales beyond Lagos, pioneer cooperative economics, replace slavery with wage labor, and lay the agricultural foundations that sustained Western Nigeria for generations. His life remains a testament to African enterprise rooted in ethics, community, and long vision.